a booth at my Women's Small Business Expo with them. So everybody was happy because radio loves to come out and do community events and things like that. So that's how media partners can work for you. They get the word out about what you do, and they make you more attractive, and you could leverage them to get the cash sponsors.
Interesting. Now, so one of the big things is always how much money do you ask for? I mean, some people think in terms of $100, some people think in terms of $1,000, and some people think in terms of $100,000. So, how do you know how much money to ask for? And does it really depend on how much media you're going to give them, or how much exposure you're going to give them? I mean, what's the rule of thumb?
Okay. All right. So sure, I would love to talk about it, and I want to tell you how much you can make, because if you charge too little in the sponsor game, it's going to hurt you. So I have people call me all the time, and they say, Linda, I've got a $500 sponsorship here, and I kind of slap them around a little bit, but nicely, and say, hey, we're gonna up level that. We're gonna pump that up. Now, what I like for you to charge is $10,000 to $100,000 from each sponsor. There's no limit to the amount of sponsors that you can have. So this could be quite lucrative and a total game changer. So the levels that I usually like to do, and of course, this depends on the person. So this is just a general guideline, but are 10,000, 25,000, 50,000, and $100,000. Now, the lowest level is the visibility benefits. That's sticking a logo on the website, or if you do an event, putting some signage out. And unfortunately, this is what most people think of as really valuable, but this is not as valuable. What is more valuable is connection benefits, where the sponsor can engage with their core consumers. So if you give them a speaking opportunity, if you give them an exhibitor opportunity, if you include them in social media, which is a two-way conversation, in video marketing, in press releases, that's more valuable if they have connection, because more connection is more conversion. So that makes, people more likely to become customers of that particular sponsor. The third level up is media, like you mentioned, and it's traditional media as well as the digital media. And also here we have spokesperson's benefit. So you could be a spokesperson for a brand. And we're seeing a lot of people become spokespeople in the media, and you can absolutely do that. So, at this level, you may have to buy some traditional media, but if you're getting, let's say, $50,000, you could spend $2,000 on buying some media and not using your media. And here's where your media partners come in, because if you do have media partners, of course, you can place them in your media partners for nothing. Now, the top level is what's called naming rights. Naming rights, and we see naming rights in the FedEx Golf Tournament and in Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. So you can have what you do and have a sponsor have naming rights there. So whatever you do, if it's your speaking, your book, your business, your event, your nonprofit, your project, it could say presented by, and then have your sponsor name there. And that is very, very valuable, because they get branding on everything that you do.
Wow, that's really exciting. It's exciting, and it sounds almost daunting, Linda. I mean, because people, I'm sure listening to this are saying, "Wow, I never even thought about this," and yet, they're interested. But I know it sounds a little bit scary, and of course, part of that is, how do you get your sponsors to renew again and again? Because, I guess one little thing could really tick them off, and then it's bye-bye. So tell me a little bit about what happens when you want to renew.
Okay, well, let's talk. I want to address that you said it's scary. It is a little scary because it's the unknown and you haven't really done it before. But if you'll notice that everything I mentioned about those benefits cost you, very little or nothing at all. Email marketing doesn't cost you anything. Social marketing costs you very little. So all those benefits that I said that you're going to give to your sponsor really don't cost you anything. Even an award presentation, if you make an award presentation to your sponsor, an award is $25 to $100, but it's really valuable to your sponsor. And let me just tell you that sponsorship is based on value, not your expenses. So you could spend $500 on a banner for your sponsor, but charge them $5,000 because it's the perceived value of that banner and that signage, because, all of the impressions and all the eyeballs that are going to see that. So even though it sounds like I rattled off a lot of benefits, I made sure that most of them are low cost or no cost. So let's talk about the renewals, because renewals are just a matter of communication and relationship building. And Gail, you would never do this. I would never do this, but there are some people who get a sponsor fee and then they don't really communicate with that sponsor. And then they come back the next year and they've got their hand outstretched and say, give me more money. And the sponsor's going to say, well, what did you do for me? So I want you to, once you get your sponsors, you want to write a report for them. And the report is just kind of a one-page summary of how you've promoted and branded that company. And then, go over it with that sponsor quarterly, every 3 months. And don't just email it to the sponsor. Set up an appointment and say, hey, here's what I've done for you. Because when you email it to them, there's no guarantee that they're going to read it. They might put it in the later pile. And you know what happens to our later pile? It becomes the never pile. So I want you to make an appointment, go over it. Now, when I had American Airlines as a sponsor, I did a radio interview, kind of like this one, and then I came back from the radio studio and I just shot off a quick email to the lady at American Airlines. I said, "Hey, I just mentioned you on the radio this radio station. They've got this many listeners," and she must have been in her office because she emailed me right back and she said, "Thank you so much," and they renewed with me, American Airlines. I've had multi-year contracts with Citibank. I've had multi-year contracts with FedEx. My clients have had multi-year contracts with Verizon and Dole Foods and Black and Decker. It's just a matter of communication, and then the renewal is the most natural thing in the world.
Okay, well, now, after hearing all of this, I'm sure that our listeners want to know. You said that you would like to offer them something, and then how also can people get in touch with you?
Okay, well, they could get in touch with me through my website, which is sponsorconcierge.com, and I'll spell that. It's sponsor, SPONSOR, concierge, CONCIERGE.com. And I'm giving them a gift at Sponsor Concierge. I'm giving them the number one secret to getting corporate sponsors. So just go to sponsorconcierge.com, and then you'll find the number one secret for getting corporate sponsors. It's on the top of the page, top right, and that is my gift to you as a thank you for listening.
Wonderful. And then if people wanted to get in touch with you, is there a way through the website as well?
There's a way through the website. I have a toll-free number, which is 866-966-3624. If you want to email me, it's linda@sponsorconcierge.com.
That sounds fantastic. And Linda, you'll appreciate the fact that I have a cat on my back right now who it can't seem to stay away. Every time I do my radio shows, he's got to come in and be a part of them. And then I have a little puppy at my feet. And yeah, so it's really interesting. I know some of our listeners are animal fanatics the way we are, so I always like to tell them what's happening and what's going on. So we have about 2 minutes left. Is there anything special that we haven't mentioned that you could tell us about in the remaining time?
In the remaining time, I just want to let people know, I know this sounds sophisticated. I know it sounds complicated. That's why I've kind of broken it down to some easy, actionable steps. The first thing that I want you to do is I want you to start making what we call the sponsor wish list. And that is a list of companies that you think could sponsor you. And don't be afraid to dream big here, because remember that I told you that Bank of America was one of my first sponsors. Well, I'm in Los Angeles, California. I was basically, stuck in traffic in a traffic jam. And I was cursing at that traffic jam. But now I thank God for it, because I look up and I see a billboard for Bank of America. And, there's a woman on the billboard, so I see that they're trying to reach out to women-owned businesses. And so I went back to my little home office. I put them on my wish list, and they became one of my first sponsors. So it inspired the action that led to the attainment of the goal to have them as my very first sponsor. So there's power in the sponsor wish list. There's power in the mindset and knowing that you can do this even if you're small and this all seems big and complicated. So I want you to just kind of hold your head up high, know that you have quality, know that you have value to offer to your sponsors, and I'm here, and you could contact me if you have any questions.
Well, Linda, you have given our audience a lot of information today, and I know that the women listening to this are enthused and excited and will be on this track very soon. So I want to thank you for being with us today. I mean, this was a wholehearted course just in today, folks. And just so you know, I have taken Linda's course, and I am using her techniques to avail myself of sponsorships as well. So you're dealing with a very, very legitimate person who has a lot of information and help for you. So thanks for being with us today, Linda.
Thank you so much, Gail. My pleasure.